The realization settled over the group immediately. Nobody looked at the valley anymore. Nobody cared about the mountains, or the rivers, or the flowers. All eyes were on Josh, waiting. Josh noticed. Of course he noticed. The problem was, he didn't know where to start. The wind moved softly through the endless fields around them. Nobody spoke. Nobody pushed, for once, because they could tell Josh was thinking. Really thinking. Finally he sighed. "You guys remember that station map?" Simon nodded. "The one with the symbol." Josh looked down. "Yeah." Silence. Then he laughed quietly. Not because anything was funny, more because he couldn't believe what was happening. "You know what's weird?" Nobody answered. "I thought that symbol was fake." The group exchanged glances. Josh continued. "I thought all of this was fake. The station, the stories, the forums, the theories, everything." Toby frowned. "What stories?" Josh hesitated. For a second, it looked like he might stop talking. Then he shook his head. "No. If I'm telling this, I'm telling it properly." The group stayed silent. Josh took a deep breath. "When I was younger, I knew someone." "A friend?" Harry asked. Josh nodded. "A friend. He was obsessed with weird mysteries, hidden places, urban legends, stuff that sounded completely ridiculous." JJ immediately pointed. "I would have liked this guy." "Yeah," Josh smiled slightly. "You probably would have." The smile faded quickly. He spent years researching something called Project 563. Nobody interrupted, because for the first time, they were finally getting answers. "He believed there were places hidden from the world," Josh continued. "Places people could reach by accident. Or sometimes," his voice trailed off. "Sometimes what?" Ethan asked. Josh looked toward the valley. "Sometimes on purpose." The air felt different after that. Nobody knew why. Maybe because the impossible landscape around them made those words harder to dismiss. Vic folded his arms. "And the station?" Josh nodded. He talked about stations a lot. Old stations. Abandoned stations. Places that shouldn't exist on any map. Simon frowned. "Mac Rover." "Yeah." Josh looked at him. "Mac Rover." The name hung in the air. He thought it was important. "Why?" Toby asked. Josh shook his head. "I don't know. Or maybe I just don't remember." Nobody could tell which answer was true. The wind moved through the flowers. "He showed me sketches once," Josh said quietly. "Symbols, maps, drawings, the same symbol we found downstairs." Nobody spoke, because suddenly that symbol felt a lot more real, a lot more dangerous. Harry looked at Josh. "So that's how you knew it?" Josh nodded once. "Yeah." For a few seconds, the group sat in silence, trying to process everything, trying to connect impossible stations, impossible symbols, and the impossible valley around them. Finally, Simon asked the question everyone was thinking. "What happened to your friend?" Josh immediately looked away. The answer came too fast. "Nothing." Nobody believed that. Not for a second. Josh noticed and sighed. "I'm serious." The group kept staring. Josh rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, I've told you everything I know that actually matters. Everything else is just stories. Maybe true, maybe not." He looked around at everyone, then toward the endless valley. But right now, a small smile appeared on his face. "I think we have a bigger problem." JJ looked around dramatically. "We're trapped in heaven?" Josh laughed, a real laugh this time. "Something like that." The wind moved softly through the valley. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Everyone was processing what they had just heard. Project 563, the station, Randolph, the symbols, none of it made any sense. Then Ethan asked the question. Everyone was thinking, "Can we get back?" Josh looked at him. "What?" "Back." Ethan pointed behind them. "Home." The atmosphere changed immediately, because suddenly, everybody remembered something important. They weren't on a trip anymore. They were lost. Simon folded his arms. "You knew about this place." Josh already knew where this was going. "I knew stories." "Do you know how to leave?" The question hung in the air. For the first time since entering the valley, Josh looked genuinely helpless. "No." Nobody said anything. Harry frowned. "You seriously don't know?" Josh shook his head. I didn't even think this place was real. The answer wasn't comforting. Not even a little. Toby stared at the distant mountains. So we're stuck. For now. Josh nodded. For now. JJ immediately pointed. Important distinction. Nobody looked at him. JJ lowered his hand. Okay. Fair. The silence returned. A heavier silence this time. Because there was no map, no road, no station, no obvious way home. Just endless hills stretching toward the horizon. Then Harry sighed. Well, everyone looked at him. What? We can't stand here forever. He gestured toward the valley. If we're stuck here, we might as well figure out where here actually is. Nobody argued, because he was right. Panicking wouldn't help. Sitting wouldn't help. The only thing they could do was move forward. Josh looked across the valley. Endless flowers swayed beneath the morning sunlight. Crystal rivers sparkled in the distance. For a place they might be trapped inside, it was ridiculously beautiful. JJ finally stood up, brushed grass from his jeans, and pointed dramatically toward the horizon. Adventure. Simon rolled his eyes. We are literally lost. Adventure with consequences. That's worse. Much worse. And despite everything, a few people laughed. The tension eased slightly. Not gone, just manageable. Then Khan adjusted his camera. Well, he looked toward the valley. Let's see what we got ourselves into. And together, the group started walking. None of them noticed the strange blue rabbit-like creature watching them from the flowers nearby. At least, not until it sneezed. Everyone froze. The tiny creature froze too. For several seconds, both sides simply stared at each other. JJ slowly pointed. What? Nobody answered, because nobody had ever seen anything like it before. The creature looked similar to a rabbit, but only vaguely. Its fur shifted between shades of blue and silver whenever sunlight touched it. Its ears were almost twice as long as normal rabbit ears, and tiny glowing specks drifted around it like floating dust. James immediately raised his camera. Please tell me that's recording. Khan checked his screen. It is. Good. Because nobody is going to believe this. The creature tilted its head, then casually hopped away into the flowers. The group followed. Not because they planned to, but because curiosity won. Within minutes, they discovered dozens more. Some were blue, some silver, some shimmered with rainbow-colored patterns. None of them seemed afraid of humans. Harry crouched beside one. The creature walked over, sniffed his hand, then sat beside him. Harry stared at it for a moment. Okay, he nodded seriously. I live here now. Simon sighed. We've been here for less than an hour. And yet I've never been more certain about anything. The creature leaned against Harry's leg. Harry pointed triumphantly. See? JJ immediately joined in. That's not helping your argument. It's helping a lot. You've known that thing for 12 seconds. 12 wonderful seconds. The group laughed. The creature looked around in confusion, then happily flopped onto the grass. The valley continued surprising them. Every hill revealed something new. Flowers taller than Ethan. Trees with white bark and golden leaves. Streams so clear they looked invisible until sunlight reflected from them. At one point, JJ spent nearly 10 minutes arguing with a bird. The bird kept copying everything he said, perfectly. Nobody knew how. Nobody knew why. Eventually, Simon walked away. I can't believe I'm saying this. What? The bird is winning. JJ looked offended. The bird copied the offended sound. The group laughed, even Josh. For a while, everything felt normal. Strangely normal. Hours passed, or at least it felt like hours. Nobody was paying attention anymore. The valley had completely captured their attention. James and Khan filmed everything. The creatures, the rivers, the waterfalls, the impossible landscape. Every direction looked like a painting. Then Ethan stopped walking. Guys! Nobody looked. Ethan rarely sounded serious. Guys! This time everyone turned. Ethan was staring toward a distant hill, far beyond the river, far beyond the flowers. At first, nobody understood what he was looking at. Then Toby saw them. His smile disappeared. There, Silence. James slowly zoomed in with his camera. The screen sharpened, and everyone felt their stomach drop. People, or at least they looked like people. 5 figures stood together on a distant hill, far too far away to see faces, far too far away to identify. They weren't moving, they weren't talking. They were simply standing there, looking toward the valley below, looking toward them. Nobody spoke, because until now, they thought they were alone. JJ swallowed. Okay. Please tell me everyone else sees that. Nobody needed to answer. They all saw them, 5 distant silhouettes, watching from the hills. And somehow, that realization felt bigger than everything they had discovered all day. Because for the first time since arriving, they knew one thing for certain. They weren't alone in this world.